talking about the factors that are going to limit most folks to be able to just put in a garden and, you know, be Farmer Jones after something happens. And we've covered most of them already. We've covered the lack of running water, the experience factor, as far as if you're not now growing the majority of your food, say 50% or better on a year-to-year basis, that experience, that lack of experience is going to slow you down. The next important thing to recognize is your soil might not be in the proper shape that it needs to be. It's very important if there's an area where you intend to garden or you intend to grow stuff in, maybe not now, but after something happens, take the time, spend the $5 or $10, whatever it is in your area, to go ahead and get your soil tested already. Okay, there's going to be a lot of things that you can do to improve the soil, but they're going to be hard to do after something happens. If you find out, for example, that your soil just needs lime really bad after something happens, there isn't a lot you can do except perhaps, maybe gut an abandoned house or something like that, chop up the sheetrock, if there's sheetrock in the house, being there's some gypsum and some limestone and such in the sheetrock, and try to work that into your garden areas and such as well. But it's important to know what your soil really lacks ahead of time, and you can start doing those amendments on your own. And we've covered some of the drawbacks already: the lack of running water, your soil not being in proper shape or may not being in proper shape, the experience factor, but also consider the time involved. Development time is what I call it. Take, for example, these trees right here. Okay, you have one tree, it's been in the ground 6-7 years at this point. And now look at this smaller tree right alongside of it. Okay, and these are different varieties of trees and such like that as well. But the point still kind of drives it home here while I'm standing here is, this tree in the background will produce a lot more this year, and this one might not even produce at all this year. One's only been in the ground about 1.5 years. Okay, so there is a lot of development time needed for things like ponds. Okay, it takes a couple of years to get your fish up in size that you can start harvesting them and such, getting your water quality right and everything. And also your trees. You put your fruit trees in, they might be 3 to 5 years before you really start seeing any decent production. Soil you can do a lot with in a short period of time. However, some of the stuff, like if you need to lime or if you need to change the acidity of your soil, being add sulfur or something like that as well too, that does take some time to really get that worked into the soil to change some of that stuff. And of course you can't just go and throw a whole bunch of chicken manure or something like that on the soil and start growing in it immediately, because it will burn your plants. So again, this is the kind of stuff you need to hammer out now, even if you just don't have the time or the inclination to garden on a year-to-year basis. If you have your bug out location or your retreat or whatever set up, or even if you're just in suburbia and you got a decent backyard, you figure you're going to stay there if something happens, go ahead and get your soil tested, figure out what it's lacking, and get it all set up. You can do all your amendments, you can get your soil all prepped, and then just cover it with tarps and such. And you know what? It's sitting there, it's ready to go, and if you need to start using it, you pull the tarps back and you start planting in it. And we do that around here. It saves on weeds as well. Okay. One of the other big factors is seed stock. Are you even stocking seeds? All right. Are you stocking seeds in the quantity that you'd need to truly grow a decent amount of food? We're showing you just a pittance of what we have going on here, but I can tell you from experience, this year we planted 25 pounds of bean seeds. One of our staple vegetables at home is we can several hundred jars or glass jars, quarts or pints every year of green beans. And many a week, that's our vegetable in the fall. If nothing's, broccoli or peas or carrots or such in a fall garden isn't coming in. So, have a good seed stock. And understand too that, the 4 or 5 little pitcher packets of seeds you have, that isn't going to do all that much of, all that much good. Minimum I would say is if you're looking at, you know, is storing probably 4 or 5 pounds of vegetable seeds per person for some of your bigger crops, you know, your bigger seeds like, say, beans and things like that. You know, 4 or 5 pounds of carrots seeds would be a tremendous amount of carrots. So again, it's going to depend on the size of the seed and such as well too. You go and you buy 2 ounces of carrot seeds and it equates out to a pile of carrots. Now 2 ounces of bean seeds wouldn't equate out to very much. But again, here's where the experience factor is going to come in, because if you're down to where you're starting your survival garden with just a couple of little pitcher packets of, and by pitcher packets I mean just the little standard $1.99 or whatever packets like you get from the store that's got the little cutesy pictures on the front. If you're starting your survival garden with just a handful of that, your first season, all you might be doing is growing more seed for next year. Because think about it, how are you going to multiply your garden area? Okay, if you only have a little bit of seed to begin with, your first efforts are essentially going to be to produce more seed first and foremost. So you might have a very small harvest that first year just because you're trying to multiply your seed. You see, the thing people don't realize is you're going to have to grow enough to both eat fresh while it's there, while it's in season, and you're going to have to grow enough to put back to keep you to the next season. And on top of that, you're going to have to keep seed to grow for the next season as well. We get the question from time to time, well, what would you recommend for seeds? A lot of folks like to buy the prepackaged, you know, for long-term storage in the number 10 cans of seeds. If you look at, on the World Wide Web at shopsimplerliving.com, there's a gal there, Wendy May, and she sells a lot of non-hybrid seeds, and these folks, they are all about quality. They are all about quality. They're good folks to deal with, and let me tell you what, they searched high and low, found a really good organic seed provider, and I would highly recommend you get some seeds put back from them, or some from a local source, doesn't matter. Now some of these areas we're looking at, it's mid-season for us here, so we're pretty well picked over already.